Welcome into Anita on the Rail, getting you ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. $7 million prize coming your way on Saturday, 6:25 p.m. Eastern Time is post time, of course, and that's in Del Mar. It's all come down to this. Many people feel that the Breeders' Cup Classic is the Super Bowl of course, the horse racing season. And we know a lot about these horses. We've been talking about them all season long throughout the Triple Crown. And you're talking about, just a really talented field of horses that are going to be strutting their stuff come Saturday, late afternoon, early evening. And we're here to break it down for you. This show brought to you by ABR, America's Best Racing, as always, and NTRA, the National Horse Players Championship, NHC, which, by the way, if you don't know a lot about it, it's the richest, most important, most prestigious tournament for horse players in the world, and really it's the culmination of a year-long series of sanctioned local tournaments conducted by racetracks, casino racebooks, off-track betting facilities, and horse racing and handicapping websites, each of which sends its top qualifiers to the national finals in Las Vegas, which, by the way, will be taking place 2026, the NHC, March 13th at Horseshoe in Las Vegas. And you can qualify to find out how through dozens of tournaments. Go to ntra.com/NHC/NHC-events/ to find out more. We've got great handicappers with us today to break down the horses and to take you, as I like to say, take you to the window. Mark DiLorenzo, we're going to hear from him in just a hot second. From Giddy Up Bets, we're going to talk about every single horse that is in this Breeders' Cup Classic. And also Matt Breiner from NBC and FanDuel. He does a phenomenal job. He's going to be joining us on the program as well with his picks heading into not only the Breeders' Cup Classic, but he's got two other races that he fancies heading into Friday and Saturday. So definitely stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let's bring in Mark DiLorenzo from Giddy Up Bets. All right, welcome in Mark DiLorenzo, Giddy Up Bets. He's here to break it all down with me, getting you ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Race number 9, post time, 6:25 p.m. Eastern Time out there on the left coast, Del Mar, just a little north of San Diego, $7 million purse. And you're talking really the best of the best. Before we dive into specifics with all the horses, Mark, do you feel that this is the strongest Breeders' Cup Classic field we've seen in maybe a decade?
It was before the scratch of Sovereignty. Yesterday, Sovereignty spiked the temperature. Sovereignty is your Kentucky Derby winner, your Belmont Stakes winner, your Travers winner, and looked tough to beat in this field because he's really developed into something extremely special. And he spiked the temperature yesterday. Everything is fine with the horse, but they're going to lean on the side of caution. And as I've said a few times throughout the year, the ownership group of Godolphin really wants to run this horse in the Dubai World Cup. So they are not going to run in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And if he was, I would say this is probably one of the best overall Breeders' Cup Classic fields. With him scratching out, it's still a very competitive race, and it's still a very good race. And there's a lot of ways to go, but is it the best Breeders' Cup Classic ever? I think time tells more than anything, especially with a lot of these 3-year-olds, seeing how they run after, if they do continue on. So it's a really, really good race. It would have been, I think, a great race if Sovereignty would have run.
Well, there's a lot of interesting storylines heading into Saturday, right? Sierra Leone, could he win this race for the second straight season?
Back. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Forever Young. I love talking about the Japanese horses. Like, does he get revenge after a narrow loss here last season? Fierceness, overcome the rail yet again. I mean, there's like all these storylines. And I think Saturday is going to be a lot of fun to watch this. And again, we're here to break it all down for you. Let's talk about how you're handicapping in regard to, and you and I, we've done a number of these shows together. Talk about how important speed is in this specific race.
Yeah. So in this specific race, but in all races, I like to use the phrase pace makes the race. And there are some fond believers in that, and there are some non-believers in that. I am in the believer that pace makes the race. Now, if you're in a smaller field on a casual Thursday at Santa Anita, Del Mar, Aqueduct, if you have the best horse, you probably win 9.5 out of 10 times. But when you match up 9 horses that are this evenly in talent and athletic ability, having a pace scenario and having a speed scenario in your mind of how the race is going to unfold, the clearer that is for you, I like to say the larger bet you should make. Because if you have the clearer you can see how a race is going to set up, the clearer you see the way that the race could unfold into the first turn, along the backstretch and around the second turn, there's more of a chance, the better of an idea that you're going to have of how much you should invest in that race. So let's start there. The pace of this race starts and ends with number 4, Contrary Thinking, who is being sent out as a rabbit. Now, if you are a little bit newer in the horse racing game, a rabbit is a horse that a trainer or owner will send out and just say, you need to go as fast as you can to set up the pace scenario for a horse that I have that wants to close from off of the pace. Chad Brown is the trainer of Contrary Thinking, number 4. He is also the trainer of last year's defending champion, Breeders' Cup Classic champion, Sierra Leone. Last year in the Breeders' Cup Classic, there were 4, I was just looking at my email from last year, there were 3 to 4 dead speed type horses. That was not going to be the case this year. So he's decided to, which he's done in the past, which he's done before in other races, send out a horse called a rabbit who's going to be the speed of the speed and is going to fly out there and try to get some pace going so his other horse can come off the pace. What that does is it does a couple of things. And one of the top things it does is that it does not make Mr. Mike Rapoli happy. He's been on Twitter giving a little bit of a hard time to the ownership and connections of Sierra Leone, calling Contrary Thinking like his comfort animal. He said a few things that could tick a few people off in horse racing, because it's not going to make Mr. Rapoli happy, because he probably has the most talented horse in this race, who is Fierceness. Now, Fierceness has lots of tactical early speed, and when he gets out there and gets comfortable on the front end, he has shown in the past. He showed it in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile a few years ago. He showed it in his maiden win. He showed it last year when he sat in a comfortable stalking position near a very fast pace. So he was probably the best horse last year. That he is a load of talent. He is probably the most talented horse I've seen the last couple of years. The problem is that he needs the right circumstance set up, and he doesn't love being down inside. So him drawing 1 and Chad Brown entering number 4, Contrary Thinking, has a couple of question marks for me regarding number 1, Fierceness. The other 2 horses that will probably show some pace would be the Bob Baffert horse, number 3, Nevada Beach, who doesn't have a ton of speed, but Bob Baffert horses normally break quick, get into a good position. Antiquarian, who's also trained by Todd Pletcher, will not be sent, but he did draw the outside. There's a long run into the first turn. He should probably get up there close, but on the lead going into the first turn is going to be number 4, and trying to be right next to him on the outside within striking range would be number 1, Fierceness. So that's kind of how I am seeing this horse race set up when they go past the stance for the first time into the first turn.
Okay, so again, but I want to break down, I mean, just for the folks out there, listen, not everybody is so so integrated into horse racing like you, and when it comes
like how you talk about fantasy football when you go over the top of me.
So when it comes to horse racing, right? The average Joe Schmo, is going to bet and watch the Triple Crown and is going to watch this race on Saturday, the Breeders' Cup. So let's dive into it. You talk about Fierceness, the 1 horse owned by Mike Rapoli. Last year's Classic runner-up and a career best performance in the Pacific Classic at Del Mar, so has raced on this track, knows this track well, and did extremely well. So, and you kind of shared with us, all the things about Fierceness that you like. Let's talk about the 2 horse, Baeza. Pennsylvania Derby winner, enters on a kind of an upward trajectory right now, right after breaking through and its first stakes victory. What can you tell us about Baeza for folks that might want to put some coin on him?
Yeah, forward trajectory is a great way of putting it. He is a half to Mage, who won the Kentucky Derby a few years ago, and Dornock, who won the Belmont Stakes last year. This horse has always been thought of and highly regarded. And this horse was born in May. So what that means is that it tends to be more of a later developing 3-year-old. And the horse ran his best race in the Pennsylvania Derby, making, as I like to call, a new top. So he ran his fastest race. He showed that talent and ability in the Jim Dandy. He was very game with Sovereignty, who was just better than him at that time and on that day. But Baeza has the pedigree, wants to go this far, draws the right post, is going to be the right price, and is a horse that is very interesting in the Breeders' Cup Classic to win at what should be a decent price for my chair here.
Morning line 15-1. Let's talk about the 9 horse, and that's Journalism, the Preakness, and the Haskell Stakes winner. What can you tell us about Journalism?
Journalism has a ton of heart, and that is something that you really, you can't measure as a athlete or as a horse as an athlete, or as, a football player, a basketball player, like a Rudy Rudiger type. That's how I would kind of label Journalism. He has a ton of athletic ability, but he showed heart in the Preakness. He showed heart in the Haskell, where you didn't think he had a chance, and flying late, he knew where the wire was. He's kind of, in my mind, going the opposite of Baeza, where I think he might have done his best running earlier in the year. He's done a lot of running this year. I thought that he ran a decent race against Fierceness in the Pacific Classic at Del Mar last time out. But he's a horse that I like. But I think because of his name recognition from winning the Preakness and being in the Triple Crown, I'm not going to get the price that I like. So he's a contender, but he's not one that's on the top 4 or 3 of the Giddy Up Bets grid, as I would like to say.
You talked about contrary thinking, again, as we're calling him the Rabbit. Chad Brown is trying to set up a Sierra Leone win as the 7th horse. So, what is it about Sierra Leone that you like?
So Sierra Leone really pointed and was so ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. And they are kind of doing the same exact thing as they did last year. His sheep pattern is very similar. Chad Brown is very, very confident that he is working, and this is the best that he has ever looked, that he has ever been. Last year, he got a masterclass ride from Flavien Prat, moving at the right time. It's very, very hard to be a deep closer at Del Mar. Is he able to do that again? Is going to be the big question mark. It's not something that I love betting at Del Mar or in California, or horses that are going to come from deep off the pace. Him entering a Rabbit is going to help. Getting another really good ride from Flavien Prat is something that's going to be needed. He is pointing in the right direction. On my figures, he is going to peak again in the Breeders' Cup Classic, making him tough to beat. I think he should be the favorite because he won this race last year. But again, taking a favorite in a race that having to be a deep closer at a track like Del Mar, which more favors speed, is always a risky proposition to kind of go all in, as I like to say, or single a horse. So he's on my short list of horses that are going to win. He will be an A on the Giddy Up Bets grid. He is definitely a horse. He is definitely the horse to beat. Are you going to like the price? Probably not, but he is a top 3 horse in this race for sure.
8-1 on the morning line. You mentioned Mike Rapoli. Of course, he's got not just 1 but 2 horses in this race. One is Fierceness, the other one is Mindframe, and that is the 8 horse. Defeated Sierra Leone earlier this year in the Grade 1 Stephen Foster Stakes. What can you tell us about Mindframe?
Yeah, so Mindframe, Antiquarian, Whiteabarrio, who actually is running in the Dirt Mile. I'm trying to think of which is the last one. Antiquarian and Mindframe are coming out. Yeah, those are the only 2. Are coming out of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. That was on Labor Day weekend. So some people might have been at the beach. I was at the racetrack, of course. And I saw one of the craziest things happen that I've ever seen on a race course. And what happened is that one of the horses on the way outside flew out of the gate, crossed over on the whole field, kind of caused a little bit of a domino effect. Another horse kind of bounced into another horse. The jockey of Mindframe fell off, Irad Ortiz, and landed on the back of Whiteabarrio. And Whiteabarrio was like carrying him around the track for a while, which is like unheard of. Sierra Leone was in that race as well, and I should have mentioned this. Sierra Leone had to hop over the jockey, after Irad Ortiz fell, so he kind of had to leap and had to and swerve over the fallen horse and jockey. So those three horses coming out of that race is one of the reasons it's very hard to handicap this race, because I usually like to see and get a real feel for how these horses are coming into this race, and they don't run as often as they used to. So these horses at the end of August, their main prep race had this big kind of accident, not that accident, but had something go on that Antiquarian was not affected by that at all. He broke out of the gate in a really good spot. He never saw the spill. He was nowhere near the spill. So I would like to say that he tripped out. Would he still might have won if everything went according to plan? Probably. He ran really well. He ran a new top. But Sierra Leone was affected by it. There were a few other horses that were affected by it. And Mindframe lost his jockey. So you weren't able to see what Mindframe was fully able to do. That is a question mark. We haven't seen Mindframe now win a race or run a full race around the track and hit a finish line since June 28th in the Stephen Foster. And he beat Sierra Leone that day. But what he did was he got out to the front, sat right off of the slow pace, and sat a very comfortable trip and was able to kind of kick on where Sierra Leone had to make up a lot of ground. He's not going to be able to do that in this race. I think Mindframe wants a shorter distance. So he's one of the horses that, if you like this horse, I would not tell you to talk off it because you're going to get a good price. But there's a lot of question marks for me. And you don't really exactly know how well he was going to run at 1.25 miles last time at Saratoga, because he lost the rider only about 25, 30 yards into the race.
Let's talk about horse number 5, Forever Young. Now, interesting note, a Japanese horse has never won this race before. Forever Young is a 4-year-old and returns to the Breeders' Cup Classic after finishing 3rd last year behind Sierra Leone in Fierceness. I like this horse. What do you recommend people do with this horse, and what makes this horse so special?
All right, so I have some inside information for you here on Forever.
Woo! This is why we have you on the show.
Well, this is more of a joke than anything else. But, all right, so here, real inside information. The horse is doing very well coming into the race. From my people that are on the track, he looks the part. He looks bigger, stronger, just as good as he did last year when he ran a good, decent 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic. My kidding, joking aside, inside information is that I bet this horse to win last year. And I probably won't this year. And that's always a cause for concern for me, is when I get off of a horse that I think is really special. This horse, he ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic. First off, let's go back to the Kentucky Derby of 2024. He ran the best race. He got bumped around. He just missed. He ran the best race of Mystic Dan, Sierra Leone, and Forever Young. He was best. In the Breeders' Cup Classic, he drew the rail post. He didn't sit the best of trip. He then went to Saudi Arabia 2 races later and ran a huge race. Such a big race, which I felt took a lot of effort, took a lot of energy out of him. Just like in a football game, you go up against a rival, you go all out, maybe like the Dodgers did a couple nights ago. You play your heart out and make a huge, huge effort. And you go out there, and the next day you have to go pitch. Are you going to be as sharp? Are you going to be as good? Was Shohei Ohtani as good as he could have been last night after playing 18 innings the night before? No, I would like to call that in horse racing terms a bounce. So he bounced in the Dubai World Cups. Then they gave him a long time off, which is something that he needed. He ran a prep in Japan on October 1st. He's coming into the race second time off of a layoff, fresh. As a 4-year-old, he should be a bigger, stronger animal. He, again, would be on my short list. At the short, he's probably going to be one of the favorites or the second choice. He checks a lot of the boxes for me. He is an A on the Giddy Up Bets grid. I don't know if I'm going to bet him to win. Last year, when I got him at 5-1, I was 4 or 5-1. I bet him to win. This year, I think he's going to be around 7-2 because Sovereignty is now out of the race. I don't know if that price is a little too short, but if you like Forever Young, I think that he is a good bet and he is a good play to key in your exacta, trifectas, things of that nature. He's pointing in the right direction.
Well, has never finished worse than 3rd in 12 career starts and has won 9 times. Listen, You mentioned Nevada Beach, and we talked about the speed, and could be a wild card in this field. So these are the horses, okay? These are the horses we have to play with come Saturday, late afternoon, early evening. And you know what I like to say? You know what I like to ask? Mark, take us to the window. It seems to me you've got a lot of A's on your grid. I know this has been a difficult race for you to handicap. How would you, if you were going to the window right now, how would you play this race?
I think I'm going to bet Baeza. For the price, for the post position, this is a home game for John Sheriff's. This horse has made an improvement that I expected here late in the year. I don't want a horse that was at its best back in April, May, or June. I'm looking for a horse that's at its best right now. And in that ballpark, I would put 3 horses I see on the up and coming as they're at their peak level right now. And that would be number 2, Baeza, number 5, Forever Young, number 7, Sierra Leone. This is the race that I feel that they could make new tops in and win. But because Baeza will probably be the longest price of those 3, I see myself betting Baeza because I thought this horse could beat Sovereignty in the Jim Dandy. I made a big bet on him that day, and he ran his eyeballs out. And then in the Pennsylvania Derby, he showed me that he has the talent and the next gear to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. You just mentioned a horse in Nevada Beach, which I find very interesting. And he is a horse that I might use on my pick 4 and pick 5s, but he's a horse that I think I'm going to use underneath a couple horses because I think he's going to be the biggest price. Bob Baffert said that he was going to run this horse in the Travers, which leads me to believe that there is a lot of talent here. He's only raced 4 times. This will be his 5th run. He also made a new top last time out, which I would say is his fastest speed figure. He is a horse that I would definitely include in there at a huge price. So I'm likely going to play Baeza, the 2, Nevada Beach, number 3, Forever Young, number 5, Sierra Leone, number 7. Those are kind of my top 4 horses, and you know how I like to play. I play to win. I play every day, so I'll use Baeza on top. Number 2, Baeza on top, which you'll probably get 7, 8 to 1 on. Underneath, number 3, Nevada Beach, number 5, Forever Young, and number 7, Sierra Leone. Thinking Baeza is going to sit on the rail mid-pack, get first jump into the 2 speed horses that I think are going to go out there and kind of fight it off, and be your Breeders' Cup Classic winner in 2025.
He is Mark DiLorenzo. You can find him at Giddy Up Bets. By the way, this program brought to you by, of course, ABR, America's Best Racing, and NTRA, National Horse Players Championship, NHC, which is going to be taking place March 13th at Horseshoe in Las Vegas. Will you be there?
Possibly. You have to qualify to enter. I don't do a ton of tournaments because I've been running GiddyUpBets.com for 6 years now. I'm up to about 3,000 subscribers. If anybody would like to sign up, you go to GiddyUpBets.com. I'll give you a couple weeks for free to see my process. And if I tell, a couple people sign up every weekend, and if I start telling everybody who I like and then start entering tournaments, it's a little bit contradictory if I start going off of some of my opinions. So I like to be, you're going to get a couple things out of me. 1, I'm going to be loud at the racetrack. 2, I'm going to be very transparent. 3, I'm going to have a good time, and I have an even better time when we're winning. And we've done that this year, so let's kind of close out the year on a winning note here in the Breeders' Cup. So giddy up.
Giddy up, baby. I love it. Mark, thank you so much. Good luck on Saturday. All right, I want to thank Mark DiLorenzo for joining us on the program. We're going to hear from Matt Breiner in just a second, but I want to tell you more about NTRA, National Horse Players Championship, NHC. Again, it is the richest, most important, most prestigious tournament for horse players in the world. Really a culmination of a year-long series of sanctioned local tournaments conducted at racetracks, casinos, off-track betting facilities, and really it sends its top qualifiers to the national finals in Las Vegas. Each year, the NHC winner joins other champions and honorees for awards. 2026 NHC will be March 13th at Horseshoe in Las Vegas. Last year's winner, let's take a look, Dan Piazza, brought home $825,000. How about that? And the NHC paid out nearly $4.9 million in cash and prizes in 2024. Again, you can qualify for the NHC through dozens of tournaments, which can be found at ntra.com/NHC/NHC-events/, including the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge BCBC this weekend, which will offer 15 guaranteed NHC seats. How exciting is that? All right, it's time now to hear what Matt Breiner, you can see him all over NBC and FanDuel, what he has to say about this race, how he's playing it. But keep in mind, I caught up with him a little bit earlier in the week before Sovereignty was scratched from the race. So let's just keep that in mind. Let's listen in. Matt Breiner, you've seen him many a times, of course, when we do these shows with ABR, because he's one of the best in the business. You can see him all over NBC as well as FanDuel, and he'll be there in Del Mar. So, Matt, how you doing? Exciting weekend ahead, right?
Yeah, Anita, it is always good to chat with you. And yeah, this is the week that you lead up to. If you're a horse player, a hardcore horse player, the Breeders' Cup, there is no better event in North American racing. We all love the Derby and the Triple Crown in general, but from purely a gambling standpoint, these 2 days are, we joke about it, my pal Eddie Olczyk and I, it's Christmas for horse players. I mean, you've got 2 days of championship races where you could be looking at any one of these horses on any given day in a different race. They'd be the favorite. They might be 10 to 1, 15 to 1 in these races on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, so again, let's start big, and then we'll work our way. I know because there's 3 races we're going to break down with you today, and obviously the Breeders' Cup Classic, $7 million. It is race 9, 6:25 p.m. Eastern time is post time, and could this be? I mean, fierceness by Baeza, Forever Young, Sovereignty, Sierra Leone, Mindframe, Journalism. I mean, could this be one of the strongest fields we've seen in the Breeders' Cup Classic in a while?
In history, arguably. I mean, if you just look at the credentials of the horses coming into this race, not only do you have the top 3 finishers from last year's race, you've got the winners of the 3 Triple Crown races. It only was 2 horses, but the fact of the matter is you've got all 3 of those 3-year-olds showing up. You've got Baeza, who was the runner-up and the 3rd place finisher in a number of those events and eventually got his grade 1. And then on top of that, you've got some other kind of fresh faces that are not without a chance. You've got a horse like Antiquarian who's getting better. You've got Mindframe who's defeated Sierra Leone, who won this race last year. You can go so many different directions in this race. And truly, it's not hyperbole. This is one of the best classics we've ever seen.
So speed is required, right? Especially at this distance, 1 1/4 mile on dirt. The last 11 years, 14 of the last 17 dirt races at this distance were won by horses positioned in the top 3, right? So closers will, really have a real big challenge here in this race. So when you're handicapping, and we're going to get your picks in just a second, how is speed up there for you handicapping this race? Is it the most important aspect in a horse?
If you're looking at the single most important thing, in my opinion, in American racing on dirt, it's speed, it's pace. You need to be able to be forwardly placed. Now, it's a bit of a double edged sword because pace is only as good as the setup of the race is concerned. If suddenly you get multiple horses that want to go out there and go very fast early on, we can get a little bit of a pace meltdown, what we would call a bit of a collapse, and it sets up for those deep closers. And my fear would be if you like fierceness, and I'll tell you right now, I was going to pick him before the post draw. After the post draw, I'm not going to pick him just because of what we're talking about. I think this pace scenario combined with his position on the inside could be extremely problematic. So, long-winded way of saying, yes, pace makes the race. That's the old racing adage. But to a degree, if you go too fast too early on, especially at 1.25 miles, you can cook your own goose.
All right, so with that being said, Matt, take me to the window, as I like to say. How are you playing the Breeders' Cup Classic?
I initially was going to bet fierceness. I don't know that I want to do that with him down on the inside right now with the way that the post positions unfolded. There's another horse in this race that I think is going to slide a little bit under the radar. And do I think he can win? Probably not. But Antiquarian is just a horse that's getting better and better with each and every start for Todd Pletcher. He's kind of the 3rd of the 3 Todd Pletcher runners in here from the outside. I thought his Suburban was very good. He was very wide throughout. And then his Jockey Club, I know there was an issue when Mindframe lost the rider and it probably compromised Sierra Leone, but Antiquarian ran a big race that day. So I wouldn't sleep on him in here. He's 15 to 1 on the morning line. If you like Sovereignty, Put him on top in an exacta and use the 10 antiquarian underneath.
Apparently, he's been having some really good workouts with Fierceness. I'm hearing that his training has gone extremely, extremely well. Okay, so before we let you go, I want to talk about two other races. Another one on Saturday, and that's the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Post time is at 1:21 p.m. Pacific time. I won't do the math. I'm sure our listeners, our viewers can figure it out. With that being said, who do you like in the Breeders' Cup Sprint?
I hate to give out chalk in Breeders' Cup races, but Ben Tornado, this is his race to lose. And I think not only does he win, I think he wins it rather comfortably. His run at Churchill Downs, which was his first run since last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint, in which he lost by a narrow margin to Straight No Chaser, was spectacular. He won by more than 5. You take a look at the figures that he earned in that spot at Churchill in mid-September, just kind of off the chart sort of things. And I think Jose D'Angelo did the right thing, gave this horse a little bit of time, a breather coming into this spot here. If you ran him back too quickly after that big performance, he may have sort of bounced. He may have regressed off of it. I think he's coming into this. He's sitting on tilt. I expect a giant run from him. 5-2 on the morning line. If you could get that on Ben Tornado in the sprint, I think that would be stealing. I think he should probably be somewhere closer to 8-5 come post time.
And let's take a look at a race that's racing on Friday, and that's 3:25 p.m. Pacific time. I always like to say, let's give the viewers some winners on Friday so they go into Saturday in the green. The Juvenile Fillies. Who do you like in this race?
Yeah, now you got to go out on a little bit of a limb here. If I'm talking about Ben Tornado being sort of the stone cold best of the best in the sprint, these fillies, these 2-year-old girls, I think you could run this race 100 times and you get 100 different versions of how they finish. I just don't think any of them are superstars. So I want to shop around a little bit. I went to the 8 Super Corridora for John Sadler. She only just broke her maiden at Santa Anita most recently, but she did so very, very easily. She won by more than 8 lengths. And she's a horse that was always cut out for distance. 2 turns is what she really wanted. Her first 2 starts over the summer, they came at much shorter distances. You got her out to 2 turns last time, and she aired. Is she good enough? I don't know, but I don't think she's really any farther behind some of the more fancied entrants in this race than maybe it seems at first glance. She's 15-1 on the line. She might be every bit of that come post time. I just don't think any of the girls in here are all that in a bag of chips. Let's take a bit of a stand here with the 8 Super Corridora at 15-1.
Love it. Matt, thank you so much. Always great when you're a part of our show. Enjoy your Saturday afternoon and your Friday. Enjoy your Friday and Saturday at Del Mar. We'll be watching you on NBC as well as FanDuel. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Anita. Good luck.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, we've got you locked and loaded for Saturday's Breeders' Cup Classic. There's no denying that. We want to thank our sponsors, of course, NTRA, National Horse Players Championship, NHC as well. Again, a reminder, go to their website, ntra.com/NHC/NHC-events to find out more information, how you can participate 2026 in March 13th through the 16th in Las Vegas at Horseshoe. And it starts also this weekend, the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, BCBC this weekend, which will offer 15 guaranteed NHC seats. That is exciting, as well as America's Best Racing and all our special guests joining us on the program. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Good luck at the races on Saturday.